in the FI community, it can be extra lonely sometimes, or at least on the FI journey, because inherently you're going against the status quo. You're going against the mainstream. You're doing things that don't necessarily align with what other people are doing. So your values are different, and it can be even harder to find people who have values that align with you. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. I'm Sammy.
And I'm Michelle, and we host the Build a Wealthy Spirit podcast, which we talk a lot about personal finance and how to use money as a tool specifically to create a life that you value. And a big part of that we found for ourselves is building community, making friends. And so we wanted to talk today about how to make friends as an adult.
So sometimes when you're interested in financial independence and you're on your path to FIRE, you make some interesting choices, some unconventional choices to accelerate your FIRE journey. And that's what I did when I moved to the middle of nowhere, California. I'm a physician assistant, so in healthcare, interestingly enough, you can actually usually make more money by going to these rural, remote locations. And in my case, I was able to almost double my income and lower my cost of living.
And I did not have a reason to go there with Sammy, but I decided to follow her to the middle of nowhere because I had just left my job. I was taking a sabbatical, and everybody was like, "Are you going to travel?" And I said, "No, I'm going to the desert." But it was a good opportunity. I wanted to focus a little bit more on our podcast on creative work. And so I figured I would do a little bit of a desert walled-in situation and go with Sammy to the middle of nowhere. But when we say it's like the middle of nowhere, like we really want to emphasize like this was not just a small town, but a remote small town. So we were 2 hours away from any major city, 2 hours away from Palm Springs, 3 hours from Phoenix. And if we wanted to go to any grocery store that wasn't Albertsons, we had to drive 2 hours. No movie theater, there's no bars. There's literally nothing to do there, which we were happy and fine with, but we were definitely out of our comfort zone.
Yes. My health insurance actually came with a helicopter pass because if my leg broke or something happened like that, those services could not be handled in our town. We would have to be flown out to Las Vegas or Palm Springs. So it was quite remote. And you might be thinking, okay, she's living in a remote area. Obviously, she maybe lacks community and didn't have friends. And that's probably the reason for this need for community. But the truth is, for the past 8 years, 8 or 9 years, I had been working a lot, like going to work every day and then coming home and working, then waking up early and working. And I really just didn't have the time to make or maintain my friendships. Even when I would try to meet with people, I would often fall asleep. As these pictures, my friends took many pictures of me when I'd be hanging out with them, or Michelle would take them of when I barely had the bandwidth to stay awake, let alone have a decent conversation. But I was still on my journey to get to FIRE as soon as possible. But this past June 2023, I had my thyroid surgery. The surgery actually went well. My thyroid was removed. Everything was fine with that. But about 3 days after my surgery, I started having significant vomiting. Like I couldn't stop vomiting, and I was like, okay, I have to go to the emergency room. They gave me IV anti-nausea medication. It calmed down, but I got so dehydrated that for the next 3 days, I spent my time in a dark room, sensitive to the light, so I was just sitting there and thinking. And finally, when I was able to look at light a little bit, I watched Tony Robbins' Netflix documentary, I Am Not Your Guru, and he pointed out that whatever your life situation is, you are the contributor to that. You caused that to some degree. And I could definitely see that in my situation. You know, here I am. If I had a birthday party, who would I call? I would call my friends to say, you know, across the world to say I'm having my birthday, but could I really have a party or people over? I didn't have that because I had put myself in a situation where I'm so isolated and I'm just trying to grind to get to FIRE as soon as possible. And that made me really appreciate that I needed to do something not once I reached FIRE, but as soon as possible to change my situation. And that's when Michelle and I decided to move to Charleston. And I knew that even if I continued working, I would not actually have the time to make friends. So I quit my job and took a sabbatical with the focus of the sabbatical being to deliberately make friends and build a community.
So we're living in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, we didn't have a huge community. It was something that we wanted to focus on, but it's not just us. So in the US Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, in 2017, he declared a loneliness epidemic. So he's a Surgeon General. It's pretty serious to say that. And the thing is, you may have seen these headlines. We're talking about friendship recessions. Most adults say they don't have one or two best friends or close friends. So this is something that affects a lot of people. And it makes sense because you're not just going out to recess and there's a bunch of kids around you. You can just choose a couple of them to be your friends. And as life gets busier, as we're doing different things, life gets lonely and we sort of let community fall to the side.
And if there is a friendship recession or a loneliness epidemic in the United States of America, in the FI community, it can be extra lonely sometimes, or at least on the FI journey, because inherently you're going against the status quo. You're going against the mainstream. You're doing things that don't necessarily align with what other people are doing. So your values are different, and it can be even harder to find people who have values that align with you. I know for us, as soon as we found out about FIRE, like a few weekends later, we had a friend come and visit us, one of our high school friends, and she wanted to go out. We were drinking, we were Ubering. We spent $400 just on the weekend, 400 extra dollars just on the weekend that she was there. And we realized like we have moved away from the friends that we used to have. Those friends don't resonate with us as much anymore.
So we moved to Charleston and we decided we're going to be super intentional about building a community. We put together these 5 steps. We sort of outlined it as we were starting on our podcast. And we said, okay, these are the things we're going to focus on. And we're going to go through these 5 steps here. So create a vision, get out there, create a friend database, hang out again, and show up.
Okay, so the first one is create a vision. And Michelle and I are really big whenever you're thinking about something for your future, actually like thinking of a snapshot, like an image of what that looks like, that moment in the future. So when it comes to building the community, what is that snapshot of that future vision that you see that you're going to move towards?
Yeah, we really believe that no matter what you're doing, it should be aligned with your goals, your values. Like that's something we really put forward. We can't tell you what your perfect community looks like for you. So it's important to create a vision. So if you feel comfortable right now, maybe close your eyes, take a breath, and think about what your ideal community looks like. What environment are you in? Are you inside? Are you outside? What type of people are there? What are they talking about? What are you doing? What type of activities? You can open your eyes again. For me, that vision often looks like eating dinner with a bunch of people that are positive, supportive. We're talking about our favorite books. We're growing together. We're encouraging each other and celebrating wins. Not so different than a CampFI dinner. And so those are the things that I really wanted when I was creating a community.
For me, it's something active. So we're on the beach, we're playing beach volleyball. I have friends of all different ages, all different backgrounds, and we're having really good conversations.
So the second thing is if you are in a season of your life where you're trying to build community, you do have to get yourself out there. It's hard to meet people if you're just staying at your home, if you're not really putting yourself out there. We say that you need to increase your friendship luck surface area because you need to meet as many people as possible so you can find the people that really resonate with you and that you want to bring into your community.
Yes. So the first place to start is whoever your friends are, let them know that you are looking to meet other people. This can be vulnerable, to say, hey, I don't have the community or friends that I want, and I'm looking to meet people. But your friends will often know the types of people that you'll get along with, and then they can set you up on a friend date. For me and Michelle in Charleston, we have found a lot of success with meetup.com. They have all different types of meetups. And what I love about Meetup is you can pick interests that you like, and then you're automatically going to be selecting for people who have similar interests. We have been going to this writing meetup, the one that's pictured here. We go every Saturday and we write, and we see the same people over and over again, so we formed connections with them. There's also Bumble BFF, the dating app. They have a segment just for friends, so you can meet people that way as well. Special interest groups, so if you're interested in things like pickleball or something like that, you can meet people that way. And then Michelle and I's favorite is exercise classes. We love like cycling and yoga, so that's a way to meet people as well.
So this is a FI group. Who loves spreadsheets here? Raise your hand. Yes, that's what I thought. For Sammy and I, we were hoping that we would be meeting a lot of people. And so we created our own friend database. This one we made in Notion. And basically what we would do, we'd meet a bunch of people. We would write down their name, how we met them, some interesting things that we remember about them. And we think this is really important because, to be honest, you meet a lot of people and it's hard to keep track. For example, who did you talk to on Friday when you signed in? What did you talk about? They could have been really interesting, but you've also probably spoke to 30 other people since then. So a friendship database is really, it feels a little creepy, but it is actually really helpful because then the next time you see them, you can start building on your relationship. You can remember things about them. You know, if someone remembers me and that I, live in Charleston or are able to ask questions, like I feel a little bit closer to them. And so you really want to compound every time you see them and compound and build that relationship.
And we totally understand that this seems creepy and you probably don't want your friends to find your friendship database because it does seem strange. But the truth is we have spreadsheets for our net worth. We have spreadsheets for tracking our expenses. And that's because we have a goal of where we want to get. And the friendship database is the same way. We can deliberately make friends and be intentional about that by having the database. And on the handout that we've included, we have a link, like a QR code to the blank Notion template here. So if you guys want to start your own friendship database, you can do that as well. And the next step is hang out again. So when you meet someone once, you really don't know if you're going to be friends with them, or maybe they're just not going to show up to future events. It's all about seeing people over and over again. My friends Harris and Paul, they're in the right part of this photo. I actually met them originally at a group called Death Cafe, where we have biscuits and tea and talk about death.
Fun for everybody.
They mentioned that they have a meetup called Deep Talk, so then I started going to that a few times, and then they invited me to a little party at their house on a Friday night. And at the party, I realized, hey, we're friends now. Like, we're not just acquaintances who've seen each other a few times. Like, I know things about them, I know their quirks, and that only happens over time. So it does require going out and seeing people over and over again. That could mean going to the same meetups that you've been to, going to the same groups, or you can host a party. Michelle and I love to host these parties. They're called 2-hour cocktail style parties. They're a very structured party by a book by Nick Gray, and they include things like this harmonica to get people's attention during icebreakers. They have the icebreakers so that everybody feels a little bit comfortable with each other and people are not just going to a party where they don't know anybody that doesn't have any structure. And they also include name tags and things like that. So it's a very structured party that's like by the book that you can follow so that you can create something where if you meet someone at the grocery store and you like them, you can say, hey, I'm having a gathering this afternoon. You want to come over, and it doesn't feel so strange.
And we actually used this structure for a FI party. We went to our Choose FI group in Charleston. We were brand new there. And we said, hey, we're going to host one of these 2-hour cocktail parties. We're going to make it financial independence theme. We'll have icebreakers around that. And we just invited people to our home if they wanted to join. And then we also invited a few other people who we knew might be interested in this topic. And it was great. They hadn't had a meeting in a while. A lot of people were happy that we took initiative. We could nerd out about things like, real estate and investments. Some people were financial newbies and they were able to ask questions. So it was just a really good opportunity. And I hate throwing parties because I think they're so complicated and I hate making decisions. And the 2-hour cocktail party was like a really great way for us to be able to sort of have a format for that. So our final step is we do say, like, especially again, if you're looking to make community, if you're looking to make friends, like showing up is so important. For us, we love cycling in Charleston. We have this instructor. She opened up the studio a few months ago. She has this amazing story. She writes us these really cute cards, like on Thanksgiving, when there's like a full class. She wrote a personal note to everybody. And so we definitely like her and want to support her. She's an entrepreneur, like a small business owner in our city. And one day she had her 250th ride. And so we went to go sign up. I actually ended up getting waitlisted. Sammy got in. I woke up the next morning. I was like, I'm like tired. I'm on the wait list. I don't really necessarily want to go, but I figured I would go and see maybe if I could get a seat. I did. She texted me on my way there. And then when we were there, she was so happy. And to the class, she said, this is the first time we've ever waitlisted a class. It's the first time we had a full class. Michelle showed up, and she specifically called that out. And it's like those little moments that you're able to celebrate with people. And if you can kind of push yourself in those moments where, again, like I didn't really want to wake up. I could have easily not gone, but it makes a big difference. And she actually ended up coming to we did a little birthday party after our cycling class last week, and her boyfriend showed up. So those little things really make a difference when it comes to, especially when you're for any friendship, but when you're making new friends as well.
And lastly is results. It doesn't matter. These 5 steps don't matter if it doesn't actually work. So we have been in Charleston since September 2023, so just 4 months, and we have been really intentional about following these 4 steps. Like I said, I'm on sabbatical, so I'm focused on just following through with the steps that we're talking about to build the community. And this is our ugly sweater Christmas party. We had like almost 20 people there. Half the people there, they knew each other from our previous meetups. So you really get that community feel of it's not just a bunch of random friends. They also know each other. So they also know each other's quirks. And we really felt like we have been successful at building this community. And most importantly, it doesn't have to be an accident. You can do it on purpose, just like how you build your wealth, just like how you build your net worth. You can also build a community on purpose.
So the takeaways, these are the 5 steps that we think are really important. Create a vision, be really intentional, know what it looks like to you. This is what we wanted. We built a vision around what we liked, but having a little bit of that intention will point you in the right direction.
Step number 2 is get out there. As we say, this is increasing your friendship luck surface area. So this part is just meeting as many people as possible so that you form that initial connection in case you guys meet again.
Create a friend database. It's not that weird. It really goes far. People will be happy you remember them. And after a while, you meet so many people that it's just hard to keep track. There might be somebody who slipped through the cracks, but then you can reach back out to them if you need to. So we definitely recommend a friend database.
And step number 4 is hang out again, whether that's going to the same meetings over and over again or hosting your own party and then inviting people to that party.
And for our final step, show up. We know sometimes it's hard. There's a lot of stuff going on in your life, but those are also the reasons sometimes that we let community slip by. So it's good in those moments to sort of push yourself out there, push yourself when you're feeling like, maybe it's not today. Or maybe you could even follow up and say like, hey, this is something that I'm interested in, but invite me to the next one. I can't make it for this reason.
And we included some books that we love. You don't have to have all these skills naturally, just like everything else, it can be learned. The first book is The 2-Hour Cocktail Party, the one that we used to host that very structured party. It even tells you like exactly the foods to buy and how much of each food. And it keeps it to a reasonable budget too, so it's not like an expensive party that you're hosting. And then I also included The Art of Gathering. This talks about all different size gatherings. She really discusses how to make different types of gatherings really intimate and really bond with people at different gatherings. One tip that I really liked from her Art of Gathering book is that if you're not an assertive or aggressive host, like you're not taking the initiative to be a real host in the party, because sometimes maybe you want to be the chill host or you don't want to seem like too crazy and, bossing everybody around. If you don't do that, somebody else can take over your party and then be the dictator, the loudest person in the room pretty much. So she has some really good tips on how to host a really good gathering.
Thank you guys all for letting us speak today. Thank you, Stephen, for bringing us here.